All right, let's journey back in time, way back to the Iranian plateau. We're going to uncover the powerful beliefs that were thriving long before the famous prophet Zoroaster ever came on the scene. This is the story of a forgotten faith, a faith that really set the stage for one of the world's oldest and most influential religions. You know, we hear a lot about the great Persian empires, right? And their official religion, Zoroastrianism. But what about what came before that? Before the prophet, there was this complex, ancient faith that shaped the entire culture and worldview of the Iranian peoples. And honestly, understanding it is the key to unlocking a huge piece of world history. To really get to the bottom of this religion, we have to go way back, like to the 2nd millennium BCE. At that time, the ancestors of the people in Iran and the people in India were basically one group. They were the Indo-Iranians. They shared a language, a culture, and, yep, a single faith that would eventually split and grow into two of the world's great religious traditions. So how do we even begin to piece together a faith that's this ancient? I mean, it's not like we have a single holy book from that era. We have to be detectives, really, piecing together clues from later Zoroastrian texts, the Vedic scriptures from India, and of course, what archaeology can tell us. So try to picture this world. These weren't people living in cities, building massive temples. No, they were people of the vast open plains, semi-nomadic pastoralists. Their lives revolved around their herds, and maybe most importantly, their horses. They were masters of the chariot, this incredible technology that gave them so much power, and their whole way of life was just woven directly into the fabric of their beliefs. But here's the thing. At the absolute core of their entire worldview was this one powerful idea. The universe wasn't just sitting there. It was the stage for a grand, eternal, cosmic struggle. On one side of this cosmic fight, you've got Arda, or Asha. This is the fundamental force of truth, of order, of justice. Think of it as the straight path. It's the natural law that keeps the sun and stars doing their thing and keeps society in balance. And fighting against Arda at every single turn is its total opposite, drug or droga. This is the embodiment of lies, chaos, decay, and destruction. If Arda is the straight path, drug is the crooked one, the force that's always trying to unravel creation and just plunge the world into darkness. And this dualism, this whole idea, wasn't just some abstract philosophical thing. It was the central question of their existence, and it's captured perfectly in these lines from the Gathas, the sacred hymns of Zoroastrianism. This constant battle between order and chaos, light and shadow, that was the lens they saw the entire world through. So, if the world is basically a battlefield between truth and the lie, then who were the divine soldiers fighting on each side? How did this big conflict show up in their pantheon of gods? Well, their gods were pretty much split into two main camps. First, you got the Ahuras, a name that means lords. These were the noble, sovereign gods who held up cosmic order. Then there are the Devas, which is an older word for gods that they shared with their Veda cousins in India. Now, while a lot of Iranians worship them, this group would later get demoted to demons in the Zoroastrian tradition. Among the Ahuras, three figures really stand out, as you can see here. At the very top, Ahura Mazda, the supreme wise lord and creator. Then there's Mithra, the divine judge of contracts and treaties. They said he had 10,000 eyes to make sure no promise was ever broken. And finally, the seriously formidable god of war and victory, Vreth-Ragna. And they did not hold back in their descriptions of these gods. I mean, they were incredibly visceral. Vreth-Ragna, the god of victory, is described here as a ferocious wild boar that kills at one blow. He wasn't just a symbol, he was the personification of raw, untamable, violent power. This god of victory was also a master shapeshifter, which just shows his overwhelming power. He could show up in 10 different forms, and each one embodied pure virility and strength, from the unstoppable wind to a powerful stallion to the ideal 15-year-old warrior. He was, quite literally, the essence of conquest. So how did they worship these powerful, and let's be honest, often violent gods? Well, unlike their neighbors over in Mesopotamia, they didn't build huge temples. Instead, their worship happened out in the open, centered around these powerful, living rituals. The most important ceremony was called the yasna.
You can pretty much think of it as a highly elaborate festive meal, but one with a divine purpose. The human worshiper acts as the host, and a specific god is invited to be the guest of honor, to be praised and asked for favors. This whole ritual, as you can see, followed the sacred rules of hospitality. It's a cosmic version of the idea of do et des, I give so that you may give. From the invitation all the way to the final request, the goal was to build a relationship, a communion between the human and the divine, where offerings were exchanged for blessings like good health or victory in battle. Now, a key part of this communion was a special drink called hauma. This was a psychoactive beverage made by priests who pressed a specific plant. We're not actually sure which one anymore. It was drunk by priests and warriors to heighten their senses, boost their power, and bring them closer to the divine truth of Arta. And at the absolute heart of their worship was fire, or Atar. Fire wasn't just a tool, it wasn't just a symbol, it was a god in its own right. It was the sacred messenger, the go-between that carried the prayers and offerings of humans up to the world of the gods. And because of that, it was treated with immense reverence. It was never to be polluted or put out. Now, this entire ancient religious system, with its cosmic battles, its complex pantheon, its fire rituals, was about to be dramatically and permanently transformed. And it was all because of the arrival of one revolutionary thinker, the prophet Zoroaster. Okay, this is absolutely crucial to understand. Zoroaster didn't just invent a new religion out of thin air. He was a reformer. He took all the ancient beliefs we've just been talking about, the dualism, the gods, the rituals, and he radically reinterpreted and sharpened them into this powerful, focused new vision for humanity. But figuring out exactly when he lived is a huge historical puzzle. Later traditions put him around 600 BCE, but the language in his sacred hymns, the Gathas, is incredibly ancient. Most linguists now argue this puts him much, much earlier, somewhere around 1200 BCE, which makes his reforms even more remarkable for their time. So here's the bottom line. Zoroaster took the existing framework and just focused it with laser precision. He took the whole pantheon of gods and lifted Ahura Mazda up as the one, supreme god. He transformed that abstract struggle between Arta and Drug into a dramatic cosmic war between two primary spirits. He flat out rejected the Devas, casting them as demons, and he shifted the focus of rituals away from intoxicants like Homa and more towards personal ethical thinking. And this powerful reformation didn't just give birth to Zoroastrianism, which would become the state religion of mighty empires. No, it sent ideas echoing down through the millennia. Ideas that would quietly help shape the world that you and I live in today. Just think about it for a second. The whole concept of a cosmic war between a good god and an evil adversary. The idea of a final apocalyptic battle and a day of judgment. The promise of a future savior, a messiah. Many scholars believe that these foundational ideas, first sharpened by Zoroaster from an even older faith, went on to profoundly influence Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It makes this ancient Iranian religion a quiet but absolutely essential wellspring of the modern world.